My fiancé said he was too sick to come to my medical school graduation, but his location tag showed him at a hotel 20 minutes from the venue. Then a maid accidentally texted me from his phone saying room service is here. My name is Rachel, I'm 27 years old, and I just graduated from medical school at Boston University. 4 years of brutal studying, sleepless nights on rotation, mountains of debt, and sacrifice. My fiancé, ex-fiancé, Brian was 31, a real estate developer who made decent money flipping houses in the Boston suburbs. We'd been together for 5 years, engaged for 1. The wedding was planned for August, 3 months away. I'd already ordered the dress. My parents had put down deposits on the venue. We had a honeymoon booked to Greece. Brian and I met during my first year of med school at a charity fundraiser his company was sponsoring. He'd approached me at the silent auction, made a joke about how the donated spa package was probably more expensive than my apartment, and we'd ended up talking for 3 hours. He seemed stable, mature, supportive of my career ambitions. He'd dated a lawyer before me, so he understood long hours and demanding schedules.
Or so he said.
The early years were good. He'd bring me coffee during all-night study sessions. He'd quiz me on anatomy using flashcards he'd made himself. When I'd have meltdowns about failing exams or struggling with patient interactions, he'd talk me down, remind me why I'd chosen medicine. He seemed like a partner, someone who could handle being married to a doctor. We'd moved in together after 2 years. A nice condo in Brookline, halfway between the hospital and his office. We split bills proportionally based on income. He made more, so he paid more.
Fair.
We adopted a rescue dog named Biscuit, a terrier mix who became my emotional support animal during the hardest rotations. We hosted dinner parties. We went to his company events and my med school mixers. We looked like a successful couple on paper. But the cracks had started showing during my 3rd year when clinical rotations consumed my life. Brian had started complaining about my schedule. Not directly, but through passive-aggressive comments. Must be nice to have an excuse to miss everything, he'd say when I couldn't make his company dinner. I feel like I live alone, he'd mutter when I'd come home at midnight. When I tried to discuss it, he'd backtrack, say he was just tired, that he understood. He'd stopped coming to hospital events. My white coat ceremony in 3rd year, he'd said he had a migraine. My research presentation where I'd won an award, he'd had a last-minute client meeting. My chief resident nomination celebration, he'd been stuck in traffic and arrived as everyone was leaving. His phone habits changed too. Always tilted away from me. New passcode I didn't know. He'd take calls in another room, saying it was boring business stuff. He'd silence notifications when we were together, claiming he was trying to be more present. The sex became sporadic and impersonal. We went from a few times a week to once every couple weeks, if that. When I'd bring it up, he'd say he was stressed about a property deal or that I seemed too tired. He'd turn it around on me somehow, make me feel like I was the problem. He'd started working out obsessively, joined an expensive gym with a personal trainer, got a new wardrobe, designer jeans, fitted button-downs, cologne that cost more than my monthly parking pass. When I'd compliment him, he'd shrug it off. Just trying to stay healthy, he'd say. But he'd started taking gym selfies and posting them on Instagram, something he'd never done before. My friends had noticed. My roommate from undergrad, Sarah, had pulled me aside at my birthday dinner. Is Brian okay? He seems different. Distant. He's fine, I'd said automatically. Just busy with work. You know how it is. Rachel, I love you, but you need to pay attention. Something's off. I dismissed her. I was too busy surviving residency applications, board exams, graduation preparations. I didn't have mental energy to investigate vague feelings. My parents had concerns too. My mom kept asking if Brian was excited about the wedding. My dad had made a weird comment about making sure you're marrying the right person that I'd brushed off as cold feet. They'd never been his biggest fans, said he seemed too focused on money and not supportive enough, but I'd chalked it up to parental protectiveness. Looking back, everyone saw it but me. Or maybe I saw it and chose to ignore it because acknowledging it meant confronting something I wasn't ready to face. Graduation was on a Friday in May. I'd been looking forward to it for 4 years. My parents were flying in from Chicago. My brother was driving up from New York. Sarah was coming from DC. I'd invited Brian's parents too. They'd been supportive throughout school, often more so than Brian himself. The ceremony was at 10 a.m. at the Agganis Arena. I'd picked up my cap and gown the week before, had practiced walking in heels so I wouldn't trip on stage. I'd written a speech. I'd been selected as one of 3 student speakers. This was my moment, the culmination of everything I'd worked for. Thursday night, Brian came home from work looking pale. "Babe, I feel terrible. I think I'm getting the flu." I checked his temperature. "Normal. You don't have a fever." "It's coming. I can feel it." He coughed weakly. "My throat's killing me. Do you want me to look?" I reached for him. "No, don't get close. I don't want you sick for graduation." He moved away. "I'm gonna sleep in the guest room tonight. Can't risk getting you sick." It seemed considerate. Thoughtful, even. "Okay. Let me know if you need anything." He disappeared into the guest room. I heard him talking on the phone around 11 p.m., low murmurs I couldn't make out. When I knocked to ask if he wanted tea, he'd said he was fine, that he'd been talking to his brother about a work thing. Friday morning, I got up at 6. Put on the dress I'd bought specifically for under my gown, navy blue, fitted, professional. Did my hair and makeup carefully. This was going to be documented forever. I wanted to look good. I knocked on the guest room door. "Brian? How are you feeling?"
A groan. Worse.
"So much worse. I think I have a fever now." I opened the door. He was in bed, covers pulled up to his chin. "Let me check." "No, seriously, stay away. You can't get sick. This is your day." He coughed again. "I'm so sorry, Ratch. I wanted to be there, but I can barely move." My stomach sank. "You're not coming?" "I can't. I'm so sorry." He did look sorry. Or maybe I just wanted him to look sorry. "Your parents will take pictures, right? And I'll be there in spirit. I'm so proud of you." I felt tears prickling. I'd imagined this day so many times. Walking across that stage, seeing Brian in the audience, celebrating together afterward. But he was sick. People got sick. It happened. "Okay," I said quietly. "Get some rest. I'll check on you after." "You'll be amazing," he said. "Go be a doctor." I left for the arena feeling hollow. My parents met me outside. They'd gotten a hotel nearby and immediately asked where Brian was. "Sick," I said. "Flu or something. Didn't want to get me sick for today." My mom's face did something complicated. "That's unfortunate timing." "He can't help being sick, Mom." She exchanged a look with my dad, but didn't say anything else. The ceremony was beautiful. The dean's speech about perseverance, the recognition of achievements, the moment I walked across that stage and received my diploma, with Dr. Rachel Morrison printed on it. I'd worked so hard for this. But the whole time, there was an emptiness. The seat I'd saved for Brian remained empty. His parents hadn't come either. They texted that morning saying if Brian was too sick to attend, they'd stay home too, which seemed odd, but whatever. I gave my speech. Talked about sacrifice, delayed gratification, supporting each other through challenges. The irony wasn't lost on me. After the ceremony, during the reception, I pulled out my phone to text Brian a photo of me with my diploma. That's when I noticed it. We had location sharing on, had for years, a safety thing we'd both agreed to. I opened Find My Friends out of habit. Brian's location wasn't at our condo. It was showing at the Mandarin Oriental, a luxury hotel in downtown Boston. 20 minutes from where I was standing. I stared at the screen. There had to be an explanation. Maybe his location was glitching. Maybe he'd gotten so sick he'd checked himself into a hotel? That made no sense. I called him. It rang 4 times, then went to voicemail. I tried again. Same thing. My hands were shaking. Sarah noticed. "Rachel? What's wrong?" "Brian's location is showing at a hotel downtown." I showed her my phone. Her face went hard. "That fucking... There's probably an explanation." "Rachel." She grabbed my shoulders. "Stop. Just stop making excuses for him." My dad appeared next to us. Everything okay, honey? I showed him the phone. Watched his jaw tighten. Which hotel? Dad, I'm sure there's a reason. Which hotel, Rachel? The Mandarin Oriental. Let's go, he said simply. Dad, I can't just, it's my graduation reception. Rachel. His voice was gentle but firm. If there's an innocent explanation, we'll laugh about it later. But if there's not, he trailed off. You deserve to know. My mom stayed with my brother at the reception to thank people. Dad, Sarah, and I drove to the hotel in tense silence. I kept refreshing Brian's location. He was still there. Still at that hotel. We pulled up to the Mandarin Oriental, one of the nicest hotels in Boston. Valet parking, marble lobby, the kind of place that cost $500 plus per night. Way nicer than anywhere Brian and I had ever stayed. I walked up to the front desk, Dad and Sarah flanking me like bodyguards. Hi, I'm looking for Brian Chin. I believe he's a guest here. The desk clerk typed on her computer. I'm sorry, I can't give out guest information. I'm his fiancé. This is an emergency. I held up my phone showing our text thread. Please. I just need to know if he's here. She hesitated, then leaned closer. Ma'am, I really can't confirm guest names. But, she glanced at her screen. If there was a Brian Chin here, hypothetically, he'd be in room 1847. Thank you, I whispered. We took the elevator to the 18th floor. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it. Maybe he was here for a work thing. Maybe a client was staying here and he'd come for a meeting and felt sick and had to get a room. Maybe. Room 1847. I stood in front of the door for a long moment. Sarah squeezed my hand. I knocked. Nothing. I knocked again. Brian? It's Rachel. Silence. Then, distantly, I heard a woman's voice. Did you order room service? My blood went cold. The door opened. A woman stood there, mid-20s, blonde, wearing a hotel robe. She looked confused. Can I help you? Behind her, I could see into the room. Rose petals on the bed. Champagne on ice. And Brian, sitting on the bed in a hotel robe, his face going from confused to horrified as he saw me. Rachel, he started. Who's Rachel? The woman asked. I'm his fiancé, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. Who are you? I'm Madison. I'm his fiancé. Rachel, I can explain. Brian was standing now, moving toward the door. You told me you were too sick to come to my medical school graduation, I said. Each word felt like ice. But you're here, at a luxury hotel, with her. It's not what it looks like. It looks like you're in a hotel room with rose petals and champagne, while I just walked across a stage to get my MD, and you weren't there. Madison was putting pieces together. You said you were single. You said you worked in finance and traveled a lot, and that's why we could only meet certain times. How long? I asked Brian. How long have you been seeing her? He couldn't meet my eyes. Answer me. 8 months, he whispered. 8 months. Almost the entire time we'd been engaged. Madison's face went white. You're engaged? You've been engaged this whole time? Madison, I was going to tell you. When? She shouted. When were you going to tell me you have a fiancé? This is insane, I heard myself say. I'm standing here in my graduation dress, arguing with my cheating fiancé in a hotel hallway. This is actually happening. My dad stepped forward. Brian, I'm going to give you one chance to walk away from my daughter before I do something we'll both regret. Mr. Morrison, please, I love Rachel. You love her? Madison's voice was shrill. What about what you said to me last night about? Shut up, Brian hissed at her. That's when I saw it. On the nightstand behind Brian. My grandmother's necklace. The one that had been missing from our condo for 3 months. The one Brian had helped me look for, suggesting maybe it had fallen behind the dresser or gotten lost at the hospital. He'd given it to her. Given my grandmother's necklace to his mistress. That's my necklace, I said quietly. The one that belonged to my grandmother. The one you said you couldn't find. Madison touched the necklace at her throat. He gave this to me. He said it was an heirloom from his family. It was from my family. I looked at Brian. You stole my grandmother's necklace and gave it to her. I was going to give it back.
How?
I was crying now, angry tears streaming down my face. After the wedding? Were you planning to just keep seeing her? Keep lying? What was the plan, Brian? I don't know, he shouted. I don't know, okay? I love you, Rachel, but you're never around, you're always at the hospital, and Madison is she's easy and fun and available. Oh my God, Madison said. I'm just easy and fun? That's what I am to you. Everyone, please calm down, Brian tried. Calm down. I laughed hysterically. You missed my medical school graduation, the biggest day of my life, to fuck another woman in a luxury hotel, and you want me to calm down? Sarah pulled out her phone and started taking photos. Of the room. Of Madison. Of Brian in his robe, looking guilty. For the lawyers, she said coolly. Keep talking, Brian. Tell us more about how Rachel's never around because she was becoming a doctor. You're recording this? Brian looked panicked. Documenting. Sarah corrected. There's a difference. My phone buzzed. I looked down. A text from Brian's number, except Brian was standing right in front of me, not holding his phone. The message read, Hi, this is Rosa from housekeeping. I found a phone in room 1847 and wanted to return it to front desk. Also, room service tray is outside your door, the champagne you ordered. I looked up slowly. You left your phone in the room. The housekeeper found it. Brian's face went from red to white. That's why I didn't answer. The champagne you ordered. I read aloud. You ordered champagne. You planned this. You weren't sick. You never were sick. You planned to skip my graduation, so you could be here with her. Rachel. How long have you been planning this? How long have you had this room booked? Madison was crying now. He told me it was a surprise romantic weekend. That he'd cleared his schedule just for me. Your schedule was clear because it was my graduation day, I said. Everyone we know was there. No one would question where you were because I told them you were sick. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. How was it supposed to happen, Brian? When were you going to tell me? On our wedding day? On our honeymoon? A thought struck me. Oh my God. Were you going to bring her on our honeymoon? His silence was damning. You were, I breathed. You were actually going to try to juggle both of us. I'm going to be sick, Madison said, running to the bathroom. My dad's hand landed on Brian's chest. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to stay here. You're not going to call Rachel. You're not going to text her. You're not going to come to the condo. If you do, I will press charges for theft of the necklace. Are we clear? Brian nodded, looking like he might cry. Good.
Dad turned to me.
Let's go, honey. I looked at Brian one last time. This man I'd planned to marry. Who I'd supported through business failures and family drama. Who I'd rearranged my impossible schedule for, sacrificed sleep for, defended to my friends and family. I hope it was worth it, I said quietly. I hope she was worth losing everything. Then I turned and walked away. Sarah grabbed the necklace off Madison's neck on our way out. That's stolen property, bitch, and we left. I made it to the elevator before I started shaking. Made it to the lobby before I started crying. Made it to the car before I completely broke down. My dad drove while Sarah held me in the back seat and I sobbed into her shoulder, still wearing my graduation dress, my diploma in its leather holder on the seat next to me. I'm so stupid, I kept saying. All the signs were there. Everyone tried to tell me. You're not stupid, Sarah said fiercely. You're trusting. And he's a manipulative asshole who took advantage of that. We drove back to the reception. My mom took one look at me and understood immediately. She hugged me while I cried, then she helped me fix my makeup and said, You're going to go back in there and celebrate your achievement. Don't let him take this from you too.
So I did.
I went back to my graduation reception with swollen eyes and smudged makeup, and I celebrated with the people who actually loved me. I took photos with my diploma. I laughed at my classmates' terrible medical jokes. I gave a toast thanking everyone who'd supported me through 4 years of hell. I didn't mention Brian. It was like he'd never existed. That night, I stayed at my parents' hotel. Couldn't face going home to the condo we shared. Sarah stayed with me, and we ordered room service and drank champagne, the good kind, not whatever cheap shit Brian had ordered for his hotel tryst. My phone was exploding with messages from Brian. Apologies, explanations, begging. I read the first few, then handed the phone to Sarah. Block him on everything. She did, gleefully. Around midnight, there was a knock on the hotel room door. My dad answered it. Brian's mother stood there, looking devastated. Rachel, honey, I'm so sorry. I just found out what happened. Brian called me, and God, I don't even know what to say. You don't have to say anything, Mrs. Chen. I want you to know that his father and I are furious. We raised him better than this. What he did is unforgivable. She handed me a box. This is the necklace. Madison gave it to me. Apparently, Sarah scared her into cooperating. And I want you to know that we'll support you completely in whatever you decide to do. If you press charges for the theft, we won't stop you. Thank you, I said quietly. She hugged me, which made me cry again. You're going to be an amazing doctor. Don't let my son ruin this for you. After she left, I opened social media. Madison had posted on Instagram a long caption about being deceived by a liar and learning hard lessons about trust. She'd tagged Brian. The comments were brutal. Then I saw it. Brian's cousin, who I'd met a few times, had commented, "Wait, this is about Brian? And Rachel? Oh no. Does Stephanie know?" Stephanie. Who the hell was Stephanie? Sarah was already investigating. Found a Stephanie tagged in some of Brian's older photos. Dug through her Instagram. Found photos of her and Brian together going back 2 years. Rachel, Sarah said carefully. I think there might be more than just Madison. We spent the next hour falling down a rabbit hole. Found 3 other women in Brian's social media orbit who looked suspiciously couple-y with him in photos. All from different time periods over the past 5 years. All seemingly unaware of each other. He's been doing this the whole time, I said numbly. The entire relationship. It was never just me. Sarah pulled up a blank document. Okay, here's what we're doing. We're making a list of every woman we can identify. We're going to contact them. We're going to compare notes. And we're going to destroy him. Sarah.
No.
Fuck him. He doesn't get to do this to multiple women and walk away clean. She was right. Over the weekend, we tracked down 5 women who'd been involved with Brian at various points during our 5-year relationship. Madison was the most recent, but there was Stephanie, a yoga instructor he'd been seeing on and off for 2 years, Ashley, a paralegal he'd dated for 6 months during my second year of med school, Jennifer, a restaurant manager he'd had a casual thing with for 4 months, and Olivia, a pharmaceutical sales rep he'd been sleeping with during my 4th-year rotations. None of them had known about me or about each other. Brian had been running a full-scale operation, managing multiple relationships simultaneously with military precision. We created a group chat. Called it Brian Chen's Victim Support Group. The conversations were equal parts therapeutic and enraging. Stephanie. He told me he was divorced. Said his ex-wife had kept the house, and he was living with a roommate temporarily. Ashley. He said he traveled for work constantly. That's why we could only meet on specific days. Madison. He had this whole story about his family not approving of his lifestyle choices, which is why I couldn't meet them. They'd all been fed different elaborate lies. Different versions of Brian tailored to what each woman wanted to hear. We need to report this, my mom said when I told her the full scope. Not to police. I don't think serial dating is illegal, but to people who know him. Monday morning, I went back to the condo with my dad and brother for protection. Brian wasn't there. His mom said he was staying with his dad. I packed all my stuff methodically. Clothes, books, toiletries, biscuits, things. Left everything Brian had given me in a box on the kitchen counter. The engagement ring went on top. I took photos of the apartment, proof I'd left it in good condition. Then I took photos of Brian's office. Found a literal spreadsheet on his laptop labeled schedule with color-coded blocks of time assigned to different women's initials. Found hotel receipts going back years. Found credit card statements showing he'd been funding his lifestyle by skimming from joint accounts and business accounts. I sent everything to a lawyer Sarah's firm recommended. Filed for the return of all money taken from joint accounts. Filed a police report for the stolen necklace. Filed complaints with his professional licensing board about the business account misuse. Then Sarah did something brilliant. She contacted Brian's biggest client, a real estate investment firm that gave him most of his business. Sent them anonymous documentation of his financial irregularities, suggesting they audit their accounts. They found he'd been inflating expenses and pocketing the difference. $20,000 over 2 years. He was immediately dropped as a contractor and threatened with legal action if he didn't return the money. His business collapsed within a week. Clients dropped him once word spread. His reputation in Boston real estate was destroyed. He had to sell his car to pay back the investment firm and avoid prosecution. Madison, surprisingly, became an ally. She helped me track down more evidence, including photos Brian had stupidly stored in a shared cloud account. Photos of him with various women, time-stamped and geotagged, providing a perfect timeline of his infidelity. "I can't believe I was so stupid," she said when we met for coffee. "Surreal, bonding with my ex's mistress, but we were both victims." "You weren't stupid. He was a professional liar. This is what he did." "I'm getting tested for STDs," she said quietly. "You should too." I had. Everything came back negative, thank God. But the violation of it, that he'd exposed me to potential diseases without my knowledge, added another layer of betrayal. The wedding venue, the caterer, the florist, I canceled everything. Most vendors were sympathetic when I explained the situation. Some even refunded deposits they didn't have to. Brian tried to show up at the hospital where I was starting my residency. Security removed him. He tried to contact me through mutual friends. They all blocked him. He sent letters to my parents' house. They returned them unopened. His final attempt was an email from a new address. "Rachel, please. I know I messed up, but what we had was real. I love you. I want to fix this. I'll do anything." I showed it to my therapist. I'd started seeing one immediately after graduation. She read it and said, "That's not an apology. That's manipulation. He's not sorry for what he did. He's sorry he got caught." She was right. There was no acknowledgement of the pain he'd caused. No real accountability. Just desperation to avoid consequences. I never responded. That silence was my final answer. 3 months later, I'm sitting in my new apartment, a studio in Cambridge, closer to the hospital. Biscuit is curled up at my feet. I'm studying for my boards, wearing scrubs from my first week of residency. My phone buzzes. A text from an unknown number. "Hey, this is Stephanie. I just wanted to let you know, Brian got engaged." My stomach drops. What? To some girl he met on Hinge. Known her for like 6 weeks. Posted about it on Facebook. Thought you should know. I look her up. Her name is Emma. She's 23, works in retail, looks sweet and naive. Her Facebook is full of posts about finding her soulmate and true love at first sight. I could warn her. I could send her everything, the screenshots, the evidence, the whole sordid story. But would she believe me? Would she think I'm just a crazy ex trying to sabotage his happiness? I screenshot the engagement post and send it to the group chat. The response is immediate and unanimous. "We have to tell her." So we do. All 6 of us send her messages. Polite, apologetic, but honest. We attach evidence. Timelines. Photos. Bank statements. We don't attack or accuse. We just present facts and let her decide. She blocks all of us and posts about jealous exes trying to ruin her relationship. 2 weeks later, she unblocks me. Sends a single message. "You were right. I found his Tinder account still active. Thank you for trying to warn me." She leaves him. Posts about it publicly. The comments section fills with other women sharing their own Brian stories. Turns out there were even more than we'd found. Brian's social media goes dark after that. Last I heard, he'd moved to Florida to start over. His LinkedIn shows him working in used car sales. Meanwhile, I'm thriving. My residency is brutal, but fulfilling. I'm learning, growing, becoming the doctor I always wanted to be. I'm dating casually. Nothing serious yet, but I'm learning to trust again.
Slowly.
My graduation photo hangs in my apartment. Me in my cap and gown, holding my diploma, grinning at the camera despite everything happening behind the scenes that day. My mom framed it for me, wrote on the back, "The day you became Dr. Morrison. The day you chose yourself." Because that's what that day really was. Not the day Brian betrayed me. The day I graduated medical school despite everything. The day I walked away from someone who didn't deserve me. The day I started choosing myself. I look at Brian's engagement post one more time, then delete the screenshot. He's not my problem anymore. He's just a cautionary tale I'll tell someday, about red flags ignored, about trusting your instincts, about how the trash really does take itself out if you're patient enough.
And as for me?
I'm Dr. Rachel Morrison now. I survived medical school, heartbreak, and public humiliation. I think I can survive anything.